Well, that's an interesting filter. Whoa. Well, we're live in this weird format, vertical live stream format for YouTube. Hope everyone's doing okay. Just kind of gathering my thoughts together. Yeah, I like this beam. It adds like a little, it's not like overdoing it. Whereas without a filter, it's kind of just, I don't know. Let's just use the beam filter. And how about, oh, I can save highlights. That's kind of cool. But can I turn off the mirroring? Well, I guess not. Well, uh, yeah, lately I've been kind of all over the place. Haven't really been able to do much live streams. I think that's pretty normal. I'm going through a lot of stuff, so um, I've been going through like just a lot of preparation, like mentally, just getting ready for this big surgery. It's a couple more weeks, and my life has changed forever in the best way. Um, yeah, let me turn off the filter. It's weird. Let's just go with realism. Yeah, so many people like, I think there's like a fad. Obviously, there's always going to be people who like AI content, for example, and like AI filters, making things seem like way better than they are. I think after a while, people will want to come back to reality. I feel like there's always going to be an audience. Maybe it's not going to be as popular as like, the super like AI generated content and all that kind of stuff. But I really do think that there's always going to be an audience of people who just like, we're tired of technology taking over. We want to see real people with real thoughts, as messy as that is, because I think that real people are the reason why we're on social media to begin with. Like, we have this, like, even if it's illusion, like, we like to connect to each other. Um, and I like content creators like Asmongold. I think like a lot of the times, his opinions are a little bit like not really all there. Either that or I just really disagree with some of his opinions. Um, and I don't know, it's really tough because even if he has reasonable opinions and the reasoning behind them, a lot of his viewers are not very reasonable and they jump to conclusions and certain things they agree with, but then they take that as like a carte blanche, like with their beliefs and their agenda, which might not even be aligned with Asmongold's beliefs. And it's just kind of ridiculous because a lot of people feel more empowered to have like certain thoughts. It's been hard to organize my thoughts lately, because I'm just so focused. Wash your hair. My hair is washed. What are you talking about? Do I just not have good lighting? What's wrong with my hair? It's just not brushed. Like we can brush my hair. That's like there. I can just cover my face, and there we go. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Yeah, it's scuffed as fuck for real. Can you hear me okay? Um, I've been using like a Bluetooth headset lately. People say it's okay, but I just hope it's okay. Yeah, just kind of organizing a lot of my thoughts has been really difficult. Yeah, I use tea tree oil, like shampoo with like peppermint and I guess like witch hazel. Do that like twice a week. You're not supposed to shampoo too much. Oh yeah, God. Yeah, it definitely needs to be brushed. I have like a lot of issues with sometimes I like don't really brush my hair or anything like that. But how you doing, Mr. Platypus? I have not really been doing much live streams lately. Just kind of been watching a lot of like Disney Plus. I've been rewatching the X-Men movies. I just finished X-Men Apocalypse. You know, there's a lot of parallels to like how a lot of people feel. Um, I know a lot of people don't think that like politics or whatever don't exist. They think that a good movie can't have some kind of you know, agenda or whatever. They think, but you know, like really, that's all like storytelling has ever been. And this is where like this current like hill that like especially like Asmongold, he's really been like dying on this hill that it's bad to insert some kind of agenda into your work. But it's like if you look at storytelling and just writing in general and public speaking in general, if you didn't need to write about it, worth a shot. Well, have a good day, Z31. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I um I don't really like if it didn't need to be said, why would you have to say it? If that makes any sense, like the whole reason why we tell stories is so that we can like show our we can express ourselves based on our own experiences, based on our own point of view, so that other people can, you know, see where people are coming from. So that I feel like you say things like there's certain words that people just, especially on the internet, don't really like to hear. Even words like you say words like like diversity, for example, and people have like a whole bunch of wait a second. Um, People have like a whole bunch of opinions on what that word even means. Like it's jumping to people people will say words like diversity, and all they literally mean is that you have a diverse group of people with different opinions and different beliefs, different backgrounds, and the more people that are have different beliefs and different backgrounds that you get together, the closer that we can kind of meet a middle ground. Because if you just surround yourself with people who are just like you kind of get like a whole bunch of not necessarily wrong ideas, but you get a lot of kind of like it's kind of like becomes like a circle jerking session. Sorry, I've been having some allergies lately. I mean, going out on runs, and there's been a lot of rain, and so there's a lot of pollen in the air and stuff like that. Um, so like when you say things like diversity, there's people who just immediately go on the defensive. They're like, get your politics out of my movies, get your politics out of my video games, whatever. And it's like, well, that's all storytelling has ever been. I mean, first of all, look at X-Men. The whole concept of X-Men has always been like since the original, like, since like the whole concept of the comic is that there's like two schools of thought of trying to work together, like mutants and humans, or that mutants are humans, that that non-mutated humans and mutated humans, we all have a common goal of trying to live together in peace and harmony. And then there's Magneto's point of view, which is that mutants are the evolution and they should rule the earth, and they should t make the first move before the other side takes the first move. And it's like, yeah, and that's kind of like a lot of the themes of the X-Men comic book and the X-Men animated series is, and the X-Men films. And like rewatching those, like it's really kind of replace mutants with any kind of marginalized group. And for me, that's being a trans person. So if you watch a movie with this, like, obviously you're going to internalize a lot of the, I feel like when you write something really well, it doesn't matter who's watching it, they will internalize to base, like, to relate to it on what they're going through. And I feel like people don't really understand that storytelling a lot of the time is hit and miss. And some people they try too hard. And that's why like people are upset about this whole agenda pushing. People are upset about like this forced inclusion. And you see that with like the Google Gemini or whatever. Like that's, I mean, I feel like it's almost a meme. I know that like maybe there's like some weird stuff behind the scenes with like the CEO or like the head developer having some kind of agenda or whatever, but I also think it's kind of like maybe they're just doing it to make people tweet about it so that they can then correct it and that's the real product. Like I don't know, but most of the time I really do think that yap 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 yap. Most of the time I really do think that it's not so much about trying to make a false reality because it's like there is a reality. But at the same time, you want to kind of like show. I think that when storytelling really works, it's when people show the inequities rather than trying to correct the inequities. Because if you see stuff like X-Men, for example, they show like what the effects of being targeted for being different are through action, through the storytelling. And then the people who fight back and how that can fuel the fire. And you get, like you get Magneto, for example, commits terrible acts of violence. And then the other side sees that as justification for their violence. And it just kind of creates a never-ending circle. And that these are themes that are in a lot of storytelling, especially in X-Men. And it's always been like that. And because more recently there's been a lot more discourse online about woke agendas and stuff like that, whatever that means, um, people get a little bit more attuned to this concept and they'll latch on to things more than I think they should. Got some marijuana? No, I'm getting ready for surgery. I have surgery coming up in a few weeks. Haven't s- um haven't smoked or ingested marijuana, um, especially CBD, because CBD is the thins your blood. It's good for you when you're not getting ready for a surgery, but it's bad to have in your system when you are getting a surgery. Um, Not as bad as nicotine. Like before surgery, they want you to not have nicotine for 3 months. I don't smoke anything. And even when I used marijuana, I would use like oil, or I would use I have like a vaporizer. I'm done with the vape cartridges. Those things are terrible. But the vaporizer allowed me to like have like really small doses, and it's not so harsh. But either way, um, I really think that I think there needs to be like people calming the fuck down. And this is like on both sides of the equation. Like people need to calm down because people get like so upset when they even get something remotely progressive happening in like a film or a video game. And it's so disgusting because it makes it sound like people are dying on this hill of saying, why are you putting trans people in my video games? Why are you putting black people in my video games? And yeah, there's like a way of like, there's a way of doing it really well where you actually include in your storylines showcasing the inequities, showcasing like this is what it's like this is what it is in a way that's compelling. But not everybody really does that. And so people just, it still seems pretty weird that people latch on to this idea of everything has to be what they call normal or it's some agenda. And it's just, it's like at some point it's like, why do you think people are accusing you of being racist? Why do you think people are accusing you of being transphobic? It's probably because every single time there's somebody who's a different skin color or someone of a different gender, um, or a gay person or a trans person on your film or on your video game, you get really mad collectively, and it just looks really bad. Like it looks like you're against people who are in those demographics. And I know that might not be the case. 7 years. It's really good to get off marijuana after a long term because it really is not a very good it's a good medication, but it's not the same way that like therapy and like other additional medications might be better suited. It's more of a general kind of like I feel like it's really good for like temporary solutions. Like it really helps alleviate some temporary problems, but long term, it creates some long-term problems, like especially with your especially with some like stuff that's in your gut, because you'll start throwing up and you'll lose your appetite after long enough. It creates also some psychosis, and there is a dependence on it. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not overdoing it. Like, obviously I'm not partaking in marijuana until after sometime after my surgery, and that's even debatable. I'll know better after surgery because I'll probably know pretty well like what my pain will be like, and if I have to eventually, when the it says it's okay, to introduce some CBD and stuff like that. And, THC is a part of that because it's like sometimes pain management is not about just like pain, it's also like about the mind. And sometimes a little bit of THC will kind of make you loopy enough to kind of get through it. But I'm going to be on pain meds and stuff, so um we'll see. But I really don't think there's I think a lot of people just really like marijuana and they want to find any excuse to use it by justifying it as it's a medication, but it's not really a medication. It's more of a it's more of like an in between. Like it's not really a full-on medication. Like obviously for some people it's the only thing that helps, at least the only thing they've found. Um, but after a long enough time, it stops really working. You get a tolerance to it, and you have to keep getting more and more and more. And like when your medication has to continually be um more and more. And when it also dulls your brain and makes you really think, it really makes you delusional. Because people will get really high and that's all they are. It's like everything about your life has to be about getting stoned. And that's like, you're much more than that. Like you clear your mind, like give yourself time to like clear it out of your system. But some people just never stop. They they'll smoke marijuana every day and it kind of becomes part of their life and they don't really allow themselves to get off of it. And I feel like marijuana is good in short term. Um, because what it does is it kind of hits a little bit of a reset button and gives you a little bit of like of a break. But it doesn't really work if there's nothing to contrast it with. Like if you're just smoking weed every day, then it's like you're not allowing yourself to have the back and forth. Obviously, some people are different. They have like chronic illness. I have chronic illness, but I'm dealing it with therapy and a small amount of medication, Lamictal. Yeah, it's really important, especially when it's like your psychiatrist has a very good reason for not wanting it to be in your system. Um, because how are you supposed to be able to know what medication works if you're also using a different medication? Um, so many people are unable to quit. Yeah, well, thank you, Wheezy. So many people have a really difficult time quitting. It's actually like a problem, because like it can create like real problems in your life. Like if you can't quit long enough to like get into like, especially if you have like a specialized, um, like if you have like a job or something that doesn't allow you to do that, like obviously, I think there should be more freedom in the sense that like I think people shouldn't lose their job for using marijuana, but at the same time, certain times, or like probation, like when they get out of jail, like people just can't quit long enough, because it's not like it's forever. It's just like while they're in probation. And so many people out there, and there's people out there who are going in for surgery like I am, and they can't quit tobacco and they have to keep rescheduling their surgery. And it's like, well, what's more important to you, a cigarette or your surgery? Yeah, if you're using cannabis and like a stimulant for like ADHD, cannabis also increases your risk of heart attack and stroke, at least if you're vaporizing or smoking it. I think vaporizing less, but it's still you're inhaling something, and that does change like your body chemistry. I think being aware of these things, like I don't think there's anything wrong with cannabis, and I just think that so many people are just really delusional. There's people who just like they'll say like, "Oh, it's my medication." It's like it's not really a medication, it's more of a an herbal supplement, if that makes any sense. Yeah, yoga is amazing. I love doing yoga. What I do is I usually do a headstand, a shoulder stand, and then plow pose. But I also do some other like kind of more Pilates stuff here and there. I've been doing it less and less often lately. I've been doing a lot of running. Like running is really good. I really like who I am when I'm not like using cannabis. But I also like who I am when I'm, you know, my therapist and all my doctors don't really have a problem with it because I'm pretty good at self-regulation. Um, yeah, like this whole concept of like wokeness, it's created like this other like concept of like anti-wokeness, which I think is just as bad. I actually think it's worse because now it's like, why are you so angry that people are trying to lift themselves up? Because at least with this like woke, quote unquote, woke agenda, it's not really about tearing people down. And obviously there are bad actors, but like literally and like in movies, but also like they're all also like obviously there's just really psychotic people out there. And that's going to be the case no matter what. Um, but what do you think is worse? Somebody like trying to fight for social acceptance and equality by like inserting like inclusion into their work, or somebody who's angry about that? Like it just makes it sound like you're racist. Like, don't you think? Like, I know that like people get really defensive. People are like, "Oh, I'm not racist. I just don't want this agenda in my video games." It's like, Like I said, I don't think people really respect what storytelling is. I mean, look at James Baldwin. He was a black writer, um, who was like very active in like the 50s and 60s, writing novels and essays about his experience as a black man and showcasing like what all these different inequities are. He also wrote about like, gay people. He wrote a novel. I haven't read, I have a book with all of his collected writings, but I don't have his novels. Like I have like his essays. Um, but he's talked a lot about his experience throughout his essays. James Baldwin is probably the perfect example of like what writing is actually supposed to be doing. Is writing is supposed to be showcasing reality through your experience and trying to fight for change through using your voice. And that's what people are doing, and people don't really like the way they're doing it. But I feel like it's just kind of weird to die on a hill of like, I don't want any kind of political or woke agenda, whatever that means, in my video games. It's like, okay, so you just want everything to just be zero storyline, you want zero conflict, you want zero themes of reality inserted into your stories, because that's what that's what reality is it's built by a diverse set of people, including the people who have been the oppressors. It's like people who are oppressors and the oppressed, and when you tell it well, you show things rather than tell. And I think that's like a hard thing to do. And I can't, I think holding people up to such a high standard that you think that every single movie or every single video game has to be at the absolute highest standard, I think that's unreasonable. Oh God, yeah, swelling in the lower legs. Yeah, you don't want that, Wheezy. Like when you're having like, what is that, hypertension or something? Yeah, it's like it could literally mean anything. Like, what is woke? It doesn't mean anything. Like, it just sounds like when people see, it's like it, consider it from my point of view, like I'm a trans woman. If you put any trans person or even just somebody saying their pronouns, which is like doesn't even imply a trans person because cisgender people have pronouns. Like if somebody comes up to me and they look very male, even if they were assigned if they were assigned male at birth, and I don't know that, but I can assume because they're presenting as very masculine, like they have a beard, they're bald, you know, like I'm gonna assume that that person has male pronouns. Like I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about that person with pronouns. But as soon as somebody says their pronouns, all of a sudden it becomes this like political agenda. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, are you gonna say that that other person has a political agenda for using their pronouns? But like when somebody else has pronouns, they're like, oh, why are you inserting an agenda? It's like it's literally just clarifying pronouns because not everybody looks specifically as what their like physical appearance looks like. And it just makes things easier because you don't have to have awkward, like, oh, I don't know which pronouns to use for this person because this person is kind of androgynous and I don't really know if that's a male or a female. And I don't know how to ask. And then there's like instead of having this like awkward feeling and awkward conversation, you just put it in your email or you put it in your bio. Like if that's why like a lot of businesses they'll have like in your professional emails just say your pronouns, or like when you have a meeting you put pronouns in your Zoom. Like it makes things easier. You don't have to think about it. The only people who are thinking about it are the people who are making a big deal out of nothing, because really all it means is that people are just showing their pronouns. They're not making a big deal out of it. But the people making a big deal out of it are like, don't insert your gender ideology into my video games. Don't insert your gender. Like that guy who was screaming about pronouns in Starfield. Like I understand he's mad. He's playing Starfield. I get it. Um, he should. I mean, honestly, I don't even think it was about the pronouns. I think he was just mad because he was playing Starfield, and and pronouns just happen to appear on the screen. Like I don't blame him. He's just mad for playing Starfield. Yeah, and any and all pronouns, like I just use whatever pronouns I think that that person looks like. And if somebody says any pronouns, then I'm going to use the pronouns that feel most comfortable for me. If somebody says a specific pronoun, then it's about like what's most comfortable for them. And usually it aligns with what I think they are too. And I think it's like there has to be kind of a give and take. I think that it's important to like, especially since most people don't really have like trans people in their life and they're kind of new to the conversation and you kind of have to go through this like little cycle and it's like, okay, here we go again. Here's a person who's I'm the first trans person they've ever met, and like I have to like kind of like say, okay, like it's not that complicated. Like I would say I'm pretty passing as female, and most people do. Anybody who says otherwise has some kind of weird agenda. Um, They even see like cisgender women who look remotely masculine and they'll like call them men and like they're trans, but they're not trans. So it's like it doesn't even matter at that point. It's not even about me at that point. Like it's about them. It's just easier to just say in your bio like what your pronouns are. Like some people don't really care what pronouns they use, and that's fine. That's like really gender fluid. But not everybody's gender fluid. And I'm very binary. I'm she, her pronouns. And like, yeah, I don't always like present 100% on what a female should quote unquote look like. Like yeah, like right now I'm just wearing like pajamas, like a lot of women do. Do you support paganism? I mean, we celebrate Christmas, right? A lot of people celebrate Christmas. That's pagan. That's a pagan holiday. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I mean, people generally like hint at something. I think like with 99% of people, you can generally guess the correct pronouns. I think like injecting like this artificial, like, unless otherwise specified or unless I'm not sure, I, if I'm not sure, I'll use they. But like I'm not going to use they and them with every single person because that just creates artificial nonsense, if that makes any sense, because 99% of people are going to be binary. I mean, maybe 98%, maybe even 95%. I don't even know. But only 1% of the population is trans in some way. And I think it's really ridiculous and unfair to kind of like I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect people to use your pronouns, but I think it's ridiculous to call everybody they them until they tell you your pronouns because most people are going to present as a binary until proven otherwise. And my policy is all guess pronouns until they tell me to use otherwise. And that's a lot easier because with the majority of people, they're not going to correct you. Audrey Hale. I don't know who Audrey Hale is. Like, who the hell are you talking about? I don't know what the paganism thing is about. This person has some agenda, like for real. I don't even. This person comes into the chat talking about paganism. Clearly, this person just had a Twitter conversation about paganism and wants to bring it here to my stream. Like, are you okay? Let's talk about it. Come here. What's ailing you? Come, stay a while. Grow large with food. Odin? Yeah, for real. I mean, you're okay, Daddy? Is Wheezy your daddy? Are you okay? I'm not your daddy. I'm your mommy. Actually, I'm more of an auntie. Yeah, let it all out. Come here. Yeah, let it all out. Are you okay? Who hurt you? Because if they hurt you, I'm gonna get you for hurting my viewer. Let it all out, just whip it out. Just unzip and let those emotions fly. Just- oh my goodness. I mean, like I just try not to think about it too much as far as like gender presentation. I feel like everybody is who they are. Some people, I feel like so many people are like, "Oh, I'm so confused because today you don't know who a woman is, you don't know who a man is." It's like, "Yeah, you do." And then there's some people, it's just like, what is the definition of a man or woman or a non-binary person? Like the definition of it is expanding rather than narrowing. And I think people are confused because for a lot of their lives, you were only considered a man if you like had a beard and like worked out, and anybody else was like not man enough. Or you're only a woman if you put on a bunch of makeup and have like a really like spit like kind of either like a certain like you have like a certain weight, like you're not too heavy, you're not too thin, you have like perfect hips, perfect bosom, perfect butt, like that's the idea. And you wear like a specific type of clothes, and if you wear like androgynous or men's clothes, somehow you're not a woman anymore. Like the definition of what a man or a woman or an androgynous person is expanding, and I think people are kind of scared. You failed your quest to Valhalla? You are not nothing. As long as there is breath in your lungs, you can serve your people. Pick yourself up and fight another day, because our common goal, our enemies, will not stop, and we need all you can get. So come here, my brethren. Come and fight with me. We are the children of Odin. And you can hold a sword, then you will have life. You can carry your soldiers, bring them with you, tend to their wounds. Then you have fight in you, my friend. Odin didn't give me the silver wing. Well, that's fine. You don't need a silver wing. So, stop it. We must stand together because all who have oppressed us, they do not know who we are. We are the children of Odin. We do not relent just because we are tired, just because we have not eaten or slept. Our hearts are what fuels us. I have like total NPC energy right now. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do a little some more of these like YouTube like vertical live streams. I think it's kind of nice. It kind of reminds me of TikTok live a little bit. I think YouTube's gonna be doing better than TikTok. I mean, it's YouTube. Like, come on. Um, I think it also helps me like when I don't really want to do a full stream like on my setup, for example. Like my setup is a mess right now. I've been like totally like here, let's I can just flip this way so I can see what I'm looking at. Yeah, this is my setup is totally scuffed right now. I really need to clean my desk and clean my room. I have like a couple weeks to do that. My surgery's coming up, and I'm gonna have like I'm not gonna really be able to do a lot of stuff, except for like be in bed and like 15 minutes of walking like a couple times a day. Freedom or something, I guess. Like I feel like good storytelling um doesn't inject other people into something. Like I feel like we're gonna react to Asmongold's video, and he kind of brings up like a God of War thing with like Norse mythology. And even there is a character who's like from Morocco. And so like yeah, people from different regions can live in a different place. Like just because there's a single black character in a Norse setting, like yeah, there's going to be people from all who might travel to, Norway and stuff like that from like African countries like Morocco and stuff like that. Um, I think that's a terrible example because that's not wokeness. That's just reality. But I feel like when you tell your story, when you tell the story of the people that you're trying to represent, like if I wrote a story about Hawaiian like history, then I'm not going to like inject a whole bunch of different stuff into it. I feel like good storytelling, people of all walks of life, not just the people that you're writing about, will be able to relate to it and understand the struggle that you're trying to tell. And I don't necessarily think that every story has to be about some kind of struggle about your people. Like there's different ways of storytelling. Like for example, I don't think every single transgender themed film has to be about trans people going through transition, for example. That's one story. And it might be a good story to tell, but like what about just trans people just being in a story and how that changes the social dynamic? Because it's going to change the social dynamic than if you just had all like cisgender people in a group. But if you have like if you have anybody who's different in any way, that like it comes with it like a bunch of social dynamics that don't exist if that person wasn't there. And I think that's just good storytelling. But unfortunately, people see trans people as this like big political thing. So anytime you put a trans person in a cast of characters, someone is going to have a problem with it. They're going to see it as political. Even if you're not even pushing for any political agenda, people just see our existence as political. It's ridiculous. Asmond. He is a creature, but I think he's like a little Sasquatch. I think I don't hate him. I mean, I don't know him. I agree with a lot of his stuff. He's pretty reasonable in a lot of things, but I disagree with certain things. And this whole like he claims not to be anti-woke, but he sounds pretty anti-woke. And I also don't like wokeness either. So it's like whatever that means. I think people are just kind of need to calm that fuck down. Like, dude, reality is not this like insane political battlefield that people artificially make it into, and then it becomes the reality that they're creating. Like things become contentious because people are making it contentious. I feel like these kind of like vertical live streams I think could be pretty useful for when I don't really want to use my full stream setup. I don't really have the energy for that. I don't really have like a coherent like thought process. I do a lot of writing. Like for example, I have like a lap desk that I use with, to write. I have like God damn it. I use a fountain pen, for my handwriting. Um, I also have a typewriter. So I use my typewriter a lot for like I have it like up here though. Everything's a mess. I have my typewriter up here. I just cleaned and oiled it. There's a trumpet. I also like will use like a Bluetooth keyboard for like my phone. Um, and I have like random notebooks. Like I have a binder that I use over here. And I have a filing system that I use. Um, Basically, I'll write on my lap desk, and then what I'll do is I'll timestamp everything, I'll date everything. Because what happens is because I write with multiple sources, multiple mediums, I mean, I'll put the time of day, like 11:48 in like 24-hour time format. Because sometimes I might write part of the day by hand, and I'll write another part of the day on typewriter, and I'll write another part of the day on my computer or my phone. And if I want to then bring anything that I want to bring into a finished product and want to edit it, then I can take it all and like from all the different sources and transcribe it into a document like on my computer, and I'll be able to collect it as at the time of writing. Like for example, I keep things in like different folders. I write scraps, even though it says unsorted. I usually just when I don't put anything in the top left, or if I don't put anything in the top left, or if yeah, I have a new story idea I'm working on called Vanguard. Um, I give myself writing homework, which is where I write about writing. I started a new process. This is just like chess games. This is math stuff I started. This is like all therapy stuff, journaling. I'm not going to show you that. Um, it's like therapy stuff. It's like drawing. But I'll organize a lot of things um, by folder. I need to write more articles because I would like to put more effort into writing journalism, rather than just writing free form and making like basically just never-ending drafts on YouTube streams, which is pretty much what things are right now. This is what this is it's literally just me kind of just working out my ideas because I'm very disorganized. Um, I have a really hard time putting things um, into a coherent story. I have a really hard time. I haven't seen Nimona yet. I heard a lot about it. It's basically supposed to have a lot of parallels with like being trans. And I've heard that like that feels like a just from what I've seen, like the scenes that I've seen and the trailer, I think that's an example of good storytelling, of like trying to get people to understand trans people, that they relate to us more than they think, um, more than they realize. I feel like most people, because we're humans, we're going through a human experience. It's an experience of transition, which is what a lot of people go through. I'm approaching the like I'm approaching to the more longer term final side of my transition because I'm having my bottom surgery after a few weeks. I've already had my facial surgery. I had orchiectomy 2 years ago, but I'm getting the full bottom surgery soon, and it's taken 18 years. Um, but it's taken almost 5 years. It's like 4.5 years now of deliberately trying to get this bottom surgery with doctors and stuff. And so after this, it's going to be a final transition phase of healing and just moving on to the next chapter of my life, a new transition, a transition into the rest of my life, because I'm not going to be going through this medical process anymore. Like, yeah, you're never fully transitioned, but that's true for everybody. Like, we all transition towards the end of our life. It's not something that just happens. Like, it's just what life is. Life is transition. And I feel like people who don't really understand trans people, they see it as some kind of artificial thing. They see it as like a new age thing, and it's not new. There have been trans people for thousands of years throughout multiple cultures across the entire world in different ways. And so, a lot of those times people had to hide it, because of persecution. In other places, it was celebrated. But I think more or less, I think for most of society, trans people have been persecuted, for being different. Um, but trans medicine specifically, like when we synthesized estrogen, that was when people started being able to transition. Really, it was in like the 1930s. That was when the first male to female surgery. I mean, female to male surgeries are not as, you know, not as it's kind of not newer, but it's kind of newer. Like but male to female process like surgeries, even though the original ones were not very good, um, people have been getting them since the 1930s. And I have to bring up the fact that a lot of people don't truly understand where all this anti-trans rhetoric really goes back to, where there was a gender clinic in Nazi Germany that got ransacked, and all the research was burned in that infamous book burning. Like all the research gone. It and trans people, um, obviously we all know the Nazis had a, anti-Semitic agenda with, they rounded up all the Jewish people and, took them to internment camps. They also took gay people, trans people, autistic people, like other mentally ill people, or, like disabled people, like all sorts of people. Like if I had been transitioning back then, I would have been taken to an internment camp. But I'm kind of weak. I wasn't able to transition until there was more social acceptance and um until transgender medicine was more available to me. I was not strong enough to transition 18 years ago. I almost thought you said Queensland anus. Queensland, Australia. Yeah, I mean, progressiveness is it's hard because as soon as you start talking about progressive concepts, people will like lock down. They'll get on the defensive. They have all these ideas in their head already about what progressiveness is, and it doesn't always align with what reality is. And so they won't even listen to you because they've already dismissed you as stupid. They already think that you're stupid. They already think that it's weird. And they won't listen to anything that about reality. And so that's why people resort to storytelling. That's why so many people, not just like trans people, not just black people, like people throughout history have always resorted to storytelling when their people have been oppressed, because otherwise you don't really have a voice and you have to be able to get people to understand you because it's harder than fighting legal battles. Legal battles are pretty hard. Just getting transgender medicine is proving really hard for a lot of places in the world. I'm in California. I'm really lucky. Um, but at least with legal battles, you can eventually get like legal wins. People might not really like you, but at least they have no legal way to harm you. But the more difficult one is social integration and social acceptance. Because until we can, like, I shouldn't have to announce that I'm trans, and my whole life should not be revolving around the fact that I'm trans. I should be able to join a group of people and just be a part of the group. Because if I join a group and they're like, oh, that's that strong and beautiful trans woman, like, why does that have to be my entire identity? Right? And until I can just join a group of people and be seen as an equal socially, then we're still nowhere near where we have to be. Yeah, it especially if it's done really well. If you tell a story that's like really preachy, and this is why in my opinion, I don't think like Christian films, like films that are like trying to get people to go to church and stuff, I think there's a real reason why people generally don't want to watch them unless they're like, diehard Christians, is because you're preaching. And when you're preaching, people don't really want to be preached to. It's just like, okay, well, is there a way to tell your story, your values without preaching? And this is where and I think it's really important because people are constantly obsessed with this idea of wokeness. But if you compare it to the same, because sometimes people really do make it way too preachy with like forced inclusion. And also it's not even really well done either sometimes. Like sometimes it's just like it's almost like a spit in the face to people because they like make forced inclusion and they don't even really do it very well. It's like it's not really done in a way that shows people's stories. It just does it because of some arbitrary thing. Sometimes. Um, I think it's probably less than people realize. I think they just see every source of inclusion as some kind of wokeness, and that's really kind of weird that people die on that hill. Because it's like, what if you saw me in a film and I'm just playing a character? Does having a trans person in your film make it somehow political? I mean, to the people that think it's woke, it does. But I'm just a person trying to make it in this world as an actress and a model. I'm not really trying to like push an agenda. I do like kind of have my own beliefs and I have my own writing and my own expression. But I also feel like that there's a personal I put that into my personal speeches, not into like in storytelling. I try to make it as it's a story. You have to tell the story. And some characters are not going to have the same ideals as I have. And if you're going to write a good story, you have to show people reality. You have to show people like what thing it has to be believable. And I can't just preach because as soon as you start preaching something, people see right through that. Like when you see a Christian film, oh, you got into a car accident from drinking and driving. You need to come to Jesus because if you go to church and you pay tithe every month, we will help you overcome your addiction. It's like, dude, like I really dislike when people make it all about Jesus. They're like co-opting Jesus into their bullshit, and they're dismissing all the real problems that people face because people struggling with like drunk driving, for example, alcoholism, you're basically just undermining their autonomy. You're undermining their struggle. You're basically trying to replace it with religion, and it's kind of weird. It's really disrespectful to the individual because this is a person, a real person who has like their own life and their own values, and you're trying to override it with some blanket statement that, oh, if you just go to church and accept Jesus into your heart, then everything will heal. It's like, no, that's like it's so broad and generic that it's rude. Hell yeah, Jesus would be down with titty skittles. In fact, I mean, I mean, maybe Jesus was a trans woman. Who knows? Yeah, when people say I'm okay with it and all, but don't make it your entire identity, it sounds like you're making it my entire identity because you see one thing about me and that's all you see. Like, right? Like, it sounds like people need to heal, and I don't know how to help them. I'm trying. I want to be able to help these people, and it's a survival thing, but it's also like these are the people who need help, and they need help because if they don't get help, they harm people, and they don't know they're harming people. That's the problem. They think they're not harming anyone. It's like when Asmongold, for example, says like, I believe everybody should be able to say and do what they want as long as they're not hurting people. But I don't think he understands like not all things are overtly hate speech. Like calling people to like literally call of violence, that's obviously hate speech. But so is like being very passive aggressive to someone because of their skin color or because of their gender. Like very passive aggressive, not listening to any struggle that that person is going through, being dismissive of any problem that that person talks about, basically just tearing everything down to the ground. Every time somebody has a grievance, you're going to dismiss it as some social justice bullshit. You're going to dismiss it as some wokeness. It's like it's so easy to dismiss something and not take it seriously. It's a lot harder to truly listen and reevaluate yourself. It's so much more work. It's so easier just to say, "Oh, that's just another crazy person on Twitter." And this is the big contention I have with Asmongold, is he just dismisses everybody because he has this opinion that that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Like there's so many other things that I agree with Asman about that he's so reasonable about, and then this one thing he's just extremely unreasonable about, and it's infuriating because it's like I feel like he's like a few conversations away from like seeing the hypocrisy in it. Make America straight again. Am I anti-gun? I'm not anti-gun, I'm just afraid of guns. Um, it's scary. Like I couldn't imagine I wouldn't feel safe in an environment where people are carrying guns around because those people are one bad day away from pulling that gun out and using it on me. Do you understand like how frightening that is? Yeah, convert to paganism and all your problems are going to go away. Take a class. I don't want a gun. First of all, I can't own a gun because I've been hospitalized at least for another um I was in 2019 and so I can't own a gun for 7 years since 2019. So until 2026. Yeah, I mean, I'm wrong on some things. There's some things that I just don't know about, but I have confidence in the things that I do know. And in the cases where I do know what I'm talking about, I know that in my specific scenarios, I'm right. But there's obviously going to be nuance, and there's obviously going to be brain dead people on Twitter no matter what. And yeah, Asmongold likes to take this stance where if he gets so laser focused on an actually mentally ill tweet, then obviously everything he's saying is correct. But what happens is people take that and they apply it broadly. And I don't think he really takes too much responsibility for his platform. I know that obviously nobody is going to like I don't think he should. Like I don't think he's required to. I just think that it would be better if he acknowledged that when he says something, his viewers take it and really roll with it. Like they take what he says as gospel, a lot of his viewers. And if you have that kind of power and you're aware of it, like maybe he's just not believing that he has that power. But if you're made aware of it and you willingly know that if you say certain things, it's going to inflame your audience, like that means that you're a part of the problem. And, I'm not saying I'm not exempt from that. Like, what if I gain a following of like, trans activism, for example, of trying to lift trans people up. I don't really think of punishing other people as the solution. I think lifting ourselves up and showing the world who we are, that not all of us are absolutely insane Twitter users. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely insane Twitter user, but for a different reason. Um, because I just can't stop talking. Um, make America gay again. Crump. Do you like Sneeko? I don't even know Sneeko. I just know he's like he really kind of got a wake-up call, I think, when he met like some of his 12-year-old viewers. That doesn't sound right. He was like at a convention and some of his 12-year-old viewers came up to him and started saying really like misogynistic shit. Like, oh, we hate women, we hate women. He's like, no, we love women. Like, I think he kind of came to a reality where it's like people really hang on to what he says and people who don't really know what he's trying to say. And I feel like you might have a really good intention in what you're trying to say to people. And this can go true for me too. I might have a really good intention with lifting up trans people, but there's going to be bad actors who take what I say and they're going to weaponize it and they're going to cause problems in my name, basically. And obviously, like, yeah, I shouldn't be held accountable for what other people do. But at a certain point, it can be pretty closely linked, which is why I think people like Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro, who literally weaponize their political views because they know their audience and they make very like bigoted content, especially targeted against trans people. And then people say, oh, well, it's not hate speech. It's not hate speech. I'm just speaking my opinion. But then you say something in a way that is going to inflame your audience and make them do hateful things. It's called stochastic terrorism. You create an environment where you're basically boiling up the water. And when you boil up the water, things are going to get heated. A lot of people don't really think that deep. So like if you speak in a lot of nuance, there's going to be a lot of people who just take it they like take the first point you make and then they just roll with that and they completely fail to hear all your further points. And obviously at a certain point you have to take creative um you have to allow yourself to just not care about that. Like obviously if I always thought about what people might do with what I say, then I'm not really going to be able to say it. But I think somebody with like a platform as big as Asmongold's, he has to be very aware of his impact on his viewers. His viewers agree with a lot of things he says. And even if he says something very disagreeable, because they agree with a lot more of what he says, they're willing to see it very differently than if somebody like me said it. If you take a single statement and if Asmongold said it and I said it, people are going to be more likely to line up with what Asmongold says, even though we're saying the exact same thing. It's called appeal to authority because they like Asmongold, but they don't know who I am. And so if I say the same thing that Asmongold says, people don't really care. Like what I don't even know what that person's on about. Oh, that person should actually be. I mean that person's name. I didn't see the person's name. Yeah, that person's gonna get a ban. Yeah, I think it's really hard to talk about these things because people are so like on one side or the other. And when you have a room full of people that are so dead set, so convinced of their side being right, it's really hard to have a decent conversation. And that's myself included because I feel very strongly about my beliefs. And if somebody presents a reasonable, I have not really heard a reasonable argument against my beliefs because my beliefs are that people should be able to live their life without fear of persecution. And that means legally and socially. I feel like, why does my life have to be less just for who I am? Why does my life have to constantly be politicized? My existence has to be up for debate by so many people out there that they think that this is some kind of lifestyle. They think this is some kind of choice. Because I'm going to tell you right now, my experience and a lot of trans people's experience is we tried it your way. I tried it for like 18, I tried it for like 13 years. I tried it your way. This isn't Burger King. I mean, this is Burger King. I can have it my way. I get to decide my life because I'm not going to. I tried conforming to what society wanted from me. I tried to live life as a male. It didn't work. I was miserable. I constantly felt like I wasn't even a person. I I was inflicted with extreme mental illness and addictive behavior, including workaholism. Like I was at school for 12 hours a day, practicing my instruments, doing my homework, constantly working. I was, and then at other times I was addicted to partying, getting drunk, smoking lots of weed, playing lots of video games, doing nothing with my life, absolutely feeling like I wasn't even a person. I was in constant pain and I didn't even always know that I was. But I tried it your way, and a lot of trans people have. I don't know why people think that this is some kind of radical thinking. Like, people think like, oh, just let kids be kids, or, why don't you like try to not be trans? It's like, yeah, we tried that. Like, are you serious? I got a meat stick. Well, it's gonna be turned into a taco pretty soon. Um, and not that having a meat stick is a problem. Um, like you got two. Okay, I mean, if you're a guy and you're attracted to women, and you're not attracted to like a very manly looking dude, but then you see a woman and you're really attracted to her, and then you find out she has a dick, and then you get really disgusted. That sounds like a you problem. Yeah, isolation, drugs, all these sort of problems. Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like you're really offended by something that has nothing to do with you. I really hope that you get some help, my friend, Aussie. Yeah, I mean, it's like seriously. I mean, I know that I don't like quoting Andrew Tate, but I think this is a good way of pointing out the hypocrisy. If you saw two people and you're a straight male, heterosexual male, and you see Megan Fox and she has a dick, and you see Hulk Hogan and he has a pussy, and I guess it's their argument for trans acceptance in some way. Would it be gayer to have sex with Megan Fox or Hulk Hogan? Like, if you're a straight guy, like get the fuck out of here. Like, there's absolutely no way. If you, I mean, I'm obviously if you're not attracted to women, that's fine. But if you see a beautiful woman in front of you and she's ready and you're ready, and then you find out there's like a little bit of a difference in equipment and that's a deal breaker for you, obviously you have every right to say no. I mean, consent is important. But that sounds like a you problem, buddy. It sounds like a you problem. Inches? Well, now you want to know the size. It sounds like you just really like girl dick. I thought that you were like kind of gonna come in here and be transphobic, but it seems like you just want your trans people to have dicks. Some trans women don't have dicks. I'm gonna be a post-op trans woman soon. Some people just always want their trans women to have penises because they really like girl dick, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're a straight guy, that doesn't make you gay. If it makes it easier to call yourself pansexual or bi, then whatever. Tell me, please. I mean, I guess like what, 5.5? Like an average size? Either way, it's going to be inverted and turned into a vagina, and it's going to be connected um to my peritoneal flap, like a part of my your abdominal lining. Yeah, you do you, boo. Yeah, a lot of, and I found out doing like OnlyFans and stuff that there's a lot of people that really like chicks with dicks. I'm gonna lose a lot of fans, but to be fair, I only had like 50 subscribers, and the subscribers that I'm not even making content, and I have like 3 people who are resubbing every month, or like maybe like 4 people. I'm making $20 a month on OnlyFans, and I'm not even maintaining it. So I think I have a career ahead of me. if I play my cards right. I'm expanding my options. I'm not just doing stuff online. Um, I mean, it's not really gonna matter in a few weeks, dude. Like, I mean, I guess I'm a grower, not a shower. It's not gonna matter anymore in a couple weeks. I'm just gonna have a pussy. Are we talking smooth or bumpy? Yeah, we got a smooth brain here. I'm not gonna lie, I have not really paid attention to my personal appearance for a very long time. I'm just trying to get through surgery. Like I'm in surgery mode. And so I'm not really paying a lot of attention to like my eyebrows. Like I have like stupid unibrow shit. I'm not really doing too much with my hair. Not I don't I'm not really doing makeup. I'm not even really dressing up a lot. I'm just kind of just getting ready for surgery. Um, but yeah, I mean, I found out, like a lot. I'm not really putting all my eggs in the internet basket, even though I seem to be, from my experience, I'm very successful with being a cam girl and being an OnlyFans girl. But I also think that like it's important for me to get out in the world and do other things. So I want to take some acting classes. I want to go to modeling school. And I also want to try to do porn outside of the internet. Well, I guess it will be on the internet, but I want to go audition for some more professional productions. And I can get stuck in a dryer or get stuck in a door, um, or or like, ask the repair guy to fix things. You Tran. I mean, I think that's like a last name. Like some people are named like Ch Tran. You trying to run duos? I don't understand what these words mean. Yeah, I'm trans. I'm gonna have a pussy too. I've had facial surgery. It's not always very flattering with the camera angles. I really don't really know all the time how to get good camera angles. I am terrible at photography, which is one of the reasons why I want to seek professional assistance with making porn content for like OnlyFans. Like I want to do collabs and I want to work with like professional film productions. No, I'm not playing Fortnite. I don't even have it installed. Um, but yeah, ever since I know it's like it's very subtle, like the changes that happen from facial surgery, but if I look at my old videos and my old photos, even when it's like, yeah, like right now, I don't even really know if I had like the best lighting. I don't know if I have like the best angle, and also the camera is kind of cheap. It's like my phone camera. But would I trust Odin with my eternal soul? I trust myself. Okay, it's mine. It's not anyone else's. Okay, I'm an individual. I don't let anyone, man or God, take care of my soul. Okay, it's mine. Okay, I'm an individual. I'm one of those types. Okay, I'm like I am a goddess. Yeah, some people have a shame kink. Some people just want attention. A lot of people are really into trans people. Like, I know a lot of people think that we're never going to be accepted or that we're never going to, like, be considered attractive. But we're like, I mean, there's a whole category for trans people on Pornhub. Enough said. Like, there's literally a whole entire category for us. And we're like the fourth most searched. I mean, the last time I read about it, at least in the top 10, but I think it was like top four searches on Pornhub is for trans people. Lego Fortnite? I don't really play games with viewers. Not if they're going to be. I do, but like I don't really play Fortnite. I played it before. Um, I've I haven't played a video game in a while, but last time I was streaming, I was playing World of Warcraft on Wrath of the Lich King on the Globulus realm. So if you want to play with me, level up to like level 70 plus on World of Warcraft on Globulus on Wrath of the Lich King, because that's where I'm playing. I'm level 73 Prot Warrior. I want to get back into it soon, but it's probably going to take until after surgery. I'll probably be in a more gaming mood during surgery recovery. Um, or I'll play chess with viewers. But not every game I play, I like to play with viewers. Like especially like games where people are going to have voice chat. I do not like having voice chat while I'm streaming because it just interrupts my thought process. Unless it's somebody that I really know really well. So I usually have like a friend or like a more trusted person that I've kind of had experience with online. Like even if they're another streamer, I don't always want them on my stream because they just bring a different energy that I don't really want. I'm generally like a solo streamer. Uh, I kind of write my own agenda, so to speak. Um, Either way, it doesn't particularly matter. I think streams like this are kind of helpful. Just kind of like free form, like kind of working out my thoughts. I do want to do some more React content for a couple Asmongold videos I've queued up that I've watched a good amount and I've written comments about, and I have them saved so that I can, you know, reference them. And, you know, I pause a lot during videos and talk a lot. I've done an Asmongold React that took two separate streams of a total of 12 hours, which means that 10 hours of commentary because the other 2 hours were the video. I went through the whole video and I didn't talk during the video. So that means I added 10 hours of content to 10 hours of commentary to a 2 hour video. Yeah, I'm gonna leave too. We've been here for an hour and a half. Um, I have a couple of videos lined up for React content. I'm just kind of like trying to get things worded out. I might do some writing, um, at least some journaling. I got my writing desk over there. You know, ready to journal and write about stuff. I write a lot. I'm a writer. But you know, unfortunately, it seems like my internet presence, nobody really gives a fuck about what I have to say. Obviously, you do, and a couple other people do. You're the ones who matter. I really don't care about the haters. But it seems like I'm not very popular when it comes to yapping. People don't really seem to, my opinions aren't very popular, and I'm not very good at this moment at public speaking enough to appeal to a mass audience and gain popularity. I don't have that kind of charisma at this time. It can be trained. Um, and also I haven't really finished any significant amount of writing, like essays or novels or anything like that. So it's like really hard for me to like really say at this moment whether or not I can really make it as like a social media figure in that way. It's not like it's a bad thing, but I've made significant more success and viewership and money with my body than I have with my mouth. I mean, talking from my mouth. I mean, you know, when it comes to my mouth doing like, you know, certain sexual activities, but it's not like it's bad. I really do appreciate the attention. It makes me feel really good about my body. It's a kink of mine to I guess it's somewhat it's like exhibitionism, like doing pornography is a form of exhibitionism. It's because I want people to watch. I want people to worship my body. It makes me feel better about myself, and it also makes me feel better knowing that I'm making people happy, even if it's for a short amount of time. I think it's very therapeutic. Some people have a problem, but that's not my problem. If it weren't me creating content, they would just go to somebody else. So, um, it's kind of fucked up though that I mean, maybe it's just, gender confirming. I don't know. But people care more about my sexual content than they do about my intellectual content, by and far. Like at one point I had 600 viewers for like an hour on my campsite. At one point like a couple months into OnlyFans, I had 50 subscribers. But what happened is gender dysphoria got in the way. It creates a lot of psychosis when you're showcasing a part of your body that you've been trying to change for 18 years. So I wouldn't be able to do work for very long. I would show up for a few weekends and then I would just quit. But even doing that, I would average like 100 viewers to 200 viewers, and at one point 600 viewers, and I would make like $50 a show at least as a beginner. And I had like 50 subscribers. I was making like over $300 a month as a beginner. Actually, I think I was making like $600 a month as a beginner after like 2 months. So if I went full time on that, it's going to take a lot of personal healing and recovery, especially after this surgery. But when I get back to it, I'm going full time, and I think I can be really successful. But it's just kind of sad that, like, yeah, I hope I can be successful with that. But I also hope that I can be successful with, like, making like YouTube videos and live streaming and, um, making like writing essays and writing novels, like using my intellect, I guess like intellectual porn. Like I wish that that could be successful, or like my music, like writing music and playing music. I really wish those things could be as appreciated on on a more popular scale, enough to make money that my body can do. But I have a really good body and I've worked really hard for it. I exercise a lot, yoga, really good diet, and this surgery is going to change everything. Um, I'm really excited. Yeah, I do a lot of live streaming, so it's also like a lot of it is like live streaming is not really easy to watch, especially in VOD content. Like right now we're doing live stream. This is my favorite thing to do, as far as like my intellectual content. I keep my content separated into two boxes. There's sexual content, which is pretty damn straightforward, and I know that I enjoy it. But gender dysphoria gets in the way of it, which is terrible because it's yet another thing where gender dysphoria ruins my life. But I'm about to fix that, and it's going to take some time, but eventually I can get back to it. I have full confidence. Um, and then there's my intellectual content, which is like, public speaking, um, social, um, seeking social justice in whatever way I can, even if it's through storytelling, um, writing essays, um, making videos, doing live streams, just talking, just even just chatting with people, even if it's not about like some big overarching social justice thing. Like I literally I just like enjoy chatting with people, which is why I love live streaming. But I keep that separate from my porn stuff. And I know that it's like some people, I have a different strategy, I think, than most. Is I want to keep my porn career isolated to itself. And then whatever I'm doing here, like on YouTube and stuff, that's like I have to build that separately. And it's really not looking good at the moment. Like yeah, like I love having you here. I love having people who really pay attention to me and listen to me and I can talk to. Um, but also you have to understand that I don't really appeal to a very wide audience, at least at this moment. Maybe I just have to keep trying harder. I'm not really making any videos. I'm not really like making any video essays. Like I have a problem finishing things. Most things are really unfinished. Like they're like rough drafts. And most people want to see a finished product. And I don't really know how to do that. Like when I see like YouTube videos where it's like highly edited, everything is like clear and concise. It's like on a very strict like timeline. I don't really know how to do that. I have not really been able to. I can write a lot, but I don't really know how to edit. It's really hard for me to get like I need to write more articles, like write more essays. And it requires a lot more work, and that's a lot of the reason why I haven't really done it. I know it requires more work. It requires more research. It requires citing sources, and having like clear, concise points and edit it down so that it's like not going on too long on certain points so that I get everything exactly the way it's supposed to in order to deliver a cohesive message that people can understand and digest. I'm glad you really like the live. This is pretty much what all my live streams are like, more or less. If I'm on my streaming setup, we'll probably intermix it with like, like React content or even just like or even just playing games together, like playing World of Warcraft or something and just chilling. But I always interact with chat, like no matter what's going on. Some people I don't really pay attention to because they're just dog shit. They're really stupid. And they say stupid things and they think they're smart. It's like the I'm 14 and this is deep kind of moment. But people like you are pretty reasonable. Yeah, having a good. I'm actually. I need to get going because I need to get ready for my therapy appointment today. I talk to her every week. Having like a person who's like objective. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that you're not using me as a therapist, but uh, there's people out there that they'll think that going online and listening to people on live streams, like that's replacement for therapy. It's really refreshing when you see that people are able to distinguish the difference and truly take care of themselves. It's also like it's one of my missions to really help people go to get help and not to be isolated because I know what it's like to be isolated and to not accept help because I refused help for so many years. And then when I just kind of gave up and of trying to like solve everything by myself and let go and receive help, my life started improving. Like when I went to therapy, when I stopped lying to myself about being trans, when I started accepting that I'm trans and that that's okay and that I need transgender medicine, like that required some support. Um, Not everybody has that support, unfortunately. So sometimes you have to really find it. It's really hard to find sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I do that too, though. Like, I want Asmongold to share the beliefs I have. And I think most people do. I think that's why people do public speaking to begin with, is they want people to share their opinion, or at the very least, kind of like meet people in a middle ground. But like sometimes I get mad, and it's like I shouldn't get mad because this is his platform. It's his beliefs, and like they're not mine. And I feel like being able to not take things so personally, because I can disagree with him. I don't, I would like him to like kind of come to understand my point of view more. Um, but at the same time, like it shouldn't make me upset that somebody else has a different opinion that's opposing to mine, especially if it hurts more when it's like a harmful opinion, when it's like trans people shouldn't be taken seriously or trans people shouldn't have access to medicine. That's clearly an opinion that I can never respect. That's not really an opinion. That's just bigotry. And I think convincing people that it actually is bigotry is the difficult problem we're facing right now because people don't like to accept that it's bigotry. They think it's an opinion. But you don't get to have an opinion about my existence. You don't get to have an opinion about my medical needs. That's not up to you. These people don't get that. It's also a pretty weird thing to go around misgendering people. Like, I mean, imagine if you did that with cisgender people. You'd run around and say, like, someone's very clearly identifying as male and they respond to he, him pronouns. And then you go around saying, oh, yeah, yeah, she's really ugly. Yeah, oh, I don't really like what she has to say. It's like, dude, who are you talking about? Like, this person has very clearly stated that they were a cisgender male, and you're like going around saying that that person's a woman. Like, that's just really weird. Like I mean, obviously you can believe whatever you want, but like I'm gonna respect people for who they are, and I'm not gonna go out of my way to like cause problems. It's just kind of weird. Like it's just kind of weird. Like the reality that these people want is just so weird. Like what do they want? They want like a world where everything fits like this arbitrary standard of what gender is. And it's like it hurts them too, because it's like who gets to decide who you are? Like you do, not some other people. Yeah, I have a lot to say about some recent videos Asmongold made. A couple of other videos I reacted to, I was agreeing with him a lot, and it's going to be a little bit different with these next React videos because I have a lot of contention with a lot of his stances on these things. And he disagrees with some of the stuff that he watches in these videos too. So it's like I'm reacting to him, reacting to a video. So it's like I'm reacting to two different sets of content. But I need to like, gather my thoughts and kind of I'm actually going to make an effort to do some writing offline. Like I said, I'm gonna do some writing. Um, I'm gonna really try to gather my thoughts because I don't usually do that. Usually I just do what I'm doing right now. But I think this can help like kind of like get me ready for that. And then when I go down to actually write things more concisely with bullet points and like trying to like narrow things down to like what my stances are and also find some like evidence to like support my opinions. I think that's a huge thing that I need to do because it's one thing to just say a lot of things, but when you back it up with like what other people say, it provides additional it's like you're not alone. Like you get other people to back what you're saying. And sometimes they do it in a different way that's like it supports your position better. Right. It's like they use the pronoun. Yeah, it's like they clearly have an agenda of misgendering trans people because it sometimes people don't even know I'm trans. And even on the internet where it's like people are very critical, people don't always know I'm trans and they just gender me correctly and treat me like a normal person. But as soon as they find out I'm trans, suddenly they have like this big problem. It's like, dude, you didn't have a problem with me before. Why does this one detail cause a problem? Like I said, like you go to like a club or something and you see a beautiful girl, beautiful woman, and you're into her. You're like a straight guy and you're into her. You're very aroused by her appearance. And you go over there and you talk to her, and throughout the conversation, it might come up that this person is transgender. And then suddenly you have a big problem. Either that or you kind of like clock the person somehow, like maybe something, and you're not like, you might not be 100% sure. I don't think anybody really is, because there's cisgender women that have some masculine traits. Um, a lot of the women I know look and sound a lot like I do. Um, and these are cisgender people. Um, there is a difference in like life experience, but I think everybody does. And like, yeah, I have the experience of being a social upbringing as treated as male, but then not being a male, and then socially transitioning to female and medically transitioning. So that's like a very different experience than what people who are assigned female at birth go through. So there's that reality, and it does make me feel like I'm less of a woman, but that's more of like a arbitrary like mindset that some people have. They think that you have to have this one solid definition of what a man is and what a woman is. It's so weird. And if you just react, if you just like interact with these people in like a normal way, they're probably not even going to know you're trans. And if they do, they're probably not going to have a big deal about it. But like there's some people that are like, as soon as they find out you're trans, they're like, oh, you're ugly, you're disgusting, nobody would ever want to be with you. It's like, well, dude, like 30 seconds ago, you wanted to have sex with me. And now you don't want anything to do with me and you think I'm ugly. Like, dude, what does that say about you? It's like it's a you problem. It's not a me problem. There's nothing wrong with me. I mean, there's some things wrong with me, but it has nothing to do with that. I got some issues, okay? I'm like a broken autistic person, but my therapist and all my medical staff reminds me that I'm not broken. My family and my friends, all my loved ones, they assure me that I'm not broken. I just feel broken. I feel like I'm never really going to be successful and be able to earn a living. But at the very least, I know I can do porn. And if I can make that work, it won't really matter because I'll be happy and I'll be making money. So, anyway. I'm gonna, quiet down and kind of just decompress. I have therapy in a bit. Thank you for being here and thank you for talking. I really enjoyed it. And just check me next time I go live, or next video I upload or whatever. Um, I don't know how to end the live. Oh, here. Bye bye.